The emergency lights painted everything red inside the council chamber. Ambassador Quintara felt her feathers press flat against her body, a response she could not control. Around the circular room, representatives from 43 species watched the footage again. Some had already seen it 3 times. They kept watching anyway, as if repetition might make it less terrifying. On the screen, a human soldier dragged himself forward. His left leg was gone below the knee. His right arm hung useless. Blood covered most of his armor. By all medical standards known to the Galactic Council, he should have been dead. Instead, he pulled himself across broken ground, still firing his weapon at enemy positions. When that weapon ran empty, he drew a knife. When 3 enemy soldiers finally brought him down, he had killed 9 of them. The medics found him still breathing 2 hours later. "This is what we face," High Chancellor Mordek said. His voice carried across the chamber like grinding stone. A species that refuses to die. A species that treats survival as optional. Quintara wanted to argue, but what could she say? The footage came from 14 different conflicts across the last 20 years. Every clip showed the same impossible truth. Humans endured what should have killed them. They recovered from injuries that would end any other soldier's career. They fought in conditions that no other species could survive. "They come from a death world," Dr. Olivia Reed said. The human scientist sat in the witness section, calm despite the hostile stares. "Earth scores 12 on the habitability index. Most of your homeworlds score between 3 and 6. You evolved on gentle planets. We evolved on one trying to kill us." "That makes you dangerous," Mordek replied. "That makes us survivors," Reed said. The debate had raged for 6 hours now. One faction wanted humans quarantined forever, trapped in their small corner of space. Another faction wanted humans destroyed before they could spread further. A small third group led by Quintara argued for integration and understanding. That group was losing. Commander Rachel Stone sat beside Reed, watching her species be discussed like a plague. She had served as Earth's liaison officer for 8 years. She had built relationships, negotiated treaties, and tried to show that humans could be trusted. None of it seemed to matter now. Fear was winning. "We have reports from 70 colonies," another council member said. "Everywhere humans settle, they transform the environment. They survive on worlds we classified as uninhabitable. They thrive where we would die in hours." "We adapt," Stone said quietly. "It is what we do." "You conquer," Mordek shot back. "You see a challenge and you defeat it. You see a hostile world and you force it to yield. What happens when you see us the same way?" Before Stone could answer, alarms screamed through the station. Emergency channels flooded with distress signals. On the main screen, New Terra appeared, a human colony world 3 weeks from Earth. Around it, 200 warships formed a blockade. Stone recognized the flags. 7 species, all part of the hardline faction, all convinced that humans needed to be stopped. "What have you done?" Stone whispered. Mordek stood tall. "What we must. New Terra will serve as an example. Humanity will accept quarantine, or humanity will watch that colony die." Stone felt her hands curl into fists. She forced them to relax. Show anger now and she would prove their fears right. Instead, she accessed her personal communication device and sent a single coded message to Earth. The reply came in seconds. 2 words. "Help coming." She almost laughed. What help could possibly matter? Admiral Cross commanded 30 ships in the defense fleet. Against 200, they would be slaughtered. Even if every human ship in space converged on New Terra, they would be outnumbered 5 to 1. The Council continued to argue. Some species wanted to call off the blockade. Others wanted to make it stronger. Quintara spoke passionately about peaceful solutions. Mordek countered with statistics about human expansion rates, human military growth, human potential threat levels. Around and around they went while 200 warships trapped 15,000 human colonists. Stone excused herself from the chamber. No one tried to stop her. She walked through the empty corridors of Harmony Point Station, past windows showing the vast darkness between stars. Somewhere out there, humans were trapped. Somewhere out there, her people faced extinction or surrender. She found herself in the observation deck alone except for the stars. Reed joined her after a few minutes. Neither woman spoke for a long time. "They're not wrong," Reed finally said. "We are dangerous. Earth made us that way. 10,000 years of ice ages and predators and diseases and disasters. We learned to endure or we died. The ones who survived passed that endurance to their children. Generation after generation of survivors. We didn't choose to be this way. Will it matter? Stone asked. Maybe not. Fear is powerful. They look at us and see monsters because we do things they cannot imagine doing. They don't understand that we're not trying to be superior. We're just trying to live. Stone's communication device buzzed. Another message from Earth. This one was longer. She read it twice before understanding. They're sending the Ghost Fleet, she said. Reed turned to her, eyes wide. That's classified. How do you? Apparently not anymore. Command is authorizing full deployment. 12 ships. 12 ships against 200? Reed shook her head. That's suicide. The Ghost Fleet doesn't believe in suicide, Stone said. They believe in impossible. She thought about the training videos she had seen, the classified reports she had accessed by virtue of her position. The Ghost Fleet operated beyond normal human limits, which meant they operated in a realm that aliens could not even comprehend. If standard humans terrified the Council, what would the elite do? Far away, moving faster than should have been possible, 12 ships burned through space toward New Terra. Their crews prepared for what came next. Some prayed. Some checked their weapons. Some simply smiled. The galaxy was about to learn a new definition of fear. Deep in the rings of Saturn, where ice and rock created a permanent storm, the base sat invisible to casual scans. Titan Base had been built inside a hollowed asteroid, shielded by radiation and debris fields that would destroy most ships attempting to approach. Only the best pilots could navigate the approach. Only the best pilots served here. Captain Iris Navarro ran her hand along the hull of the Valkyrie. The metal felt warm under her fingers despite the cold of space just beyond. The ship was different from standard military vessels. Everything about it pushed past normal limits. The engines could generate thrust that would paste regular crews against their seats. The reactor output would cook anyone not specially conditioned. The weapons drew so much power that firing them created electromagnetic pulses dangerous to the crew. You treat her like a pet, Lieutenant Sam Foster said. Walking up behind Iris, his footsteps echoed in the hangar bay. She keeps me alive, Iris replied. That deserves respect. Around them, 11 other ships sat ready. Each one represented years of secret development and billions in hidden funding. Earth's government had built the Ghost Fleet in shadows, never revealing their existence even to most military officials. The official reason was strategic surprise. The real reason was simpler. People would have been horrified by what it took to crew these vessels. Orders came through, Sam said, handing her a data tablet. We're moving out. Iris read the brief message. New Terra. Blockade. 200 hostile ships. Her eyebrows rose slightly. They really want us to make an impression. 12 against 200. Could be worse. How? Could be 300. Chief Engineer Paula Grant emerged from beneath the Valkyrie, grease on her hands and satisfaction on her face. She's ready. Push the reactor tolerance up another 8%. We can maintain combat speed 40 seconds longer before heat becomes critical. That might cook us, Iris said. Probably. Paula agreed cheerfully. But we'll be fighting, so we won't notice until after. This was the difference between Ghost Fleet and regular military. Regular crews worried about survival margins and safety protocols. Ghost Fleet crews worried about completing the mission. They had all volunteered, but Iris sometimes wondered if any of them had truly understood what they were volunteering for. The training alone killed 3% of candidates. The modifications and conditioning took years. The psychological evaluation rejected anyone with normal self-preservation instincts. General Hassan Webb appeared on the hangar displays. His face looked tired. Ghost Fleet, this is command. You have your orders. New Terra is under blockade by hostile forces. Break that blockade. Show them what we really are. Iris felt something cold settle in her chest. Those last words carried weight beyond their surface meaning. For years, humanity had tried to appear reasonable, peaceful, willing to compromise. That pretense was ending. Earth was about to reveal its true capacity for violence. Question, sir, Sam said. Rules of engagement. Minimize casualties where possible, Webb replied. But the blockade must break. How you accomplish that is your decision. Ghost Fleet exists because sometimes we need people who can do what others cannot. This is that time. The screen went dark. Around the hangar, crew members moved to their ships. No one spoke much. There was nothing to say that had not already been said during training, during the long nights of preparation, during the moment each of them had accepted what they would become. Sergeant Troy Willis led his Marines aboard the Valkyrie. Each one carried enough firepower to level a building. Each one had been enhanced to survive in conditions that would kill normal humans. Bone density increased, muscle fiber reinforced, blood chemistry altered to handle more oxygen, more stress, more damage. They looked human. Technically, they still were human. But they had crossed a line that civilian populations would struggle to accept. "We're going to scare them," Troy said, settling into his crash seat. "The aliens, I mean. They're going to see us fight and they're going to have nightmares." "Good," Sam replied. "Fear makes them cautious. Caution makes them predictable." Iris took her position in the command chair. Around her, displays showed status for every system on the ship. Everything glowed green. Valkyrie was ready for war. All ships sound off. One by one, the other 11 captains reported ready. Iris knew most of them. She had trained with some. She had competed against others. All of them shared the same core trait. They refused to quit. Put them in an impossible situation, and they would find a way through or die trying. Usually both. "Titan Control, this is Ghost Leader," Iris said, requesting departure clearance. "Ghost Leader, you are clear. Bring them home." The hangar doors opened to reveal Saturn's rings spinning in their eternal dance. Valkyrie's engines came online with a sound like controlled thunder. Acceleration pushed Iris back into her seat. 4 gravities, 5, 6. Most ships never exceeded 3. Ghost Fleet operated in ranges that would cause crew injury on normal vessels. But Ghost Fleet crews were not normal. Their bodies had been trained and conditioned to handle the stress. 7 gravities. 8. Space outside the viewport became streaks of light as they accelerated beyond what most species considered safe. Behind Valkyrie, 11 more ships followed in perfect formation. They moved like hunting predators, fast and precise and utterly focused. "Jump calculations complete," Sam reported. "Distance is beyond standard safety limits." "Since when do we care about standard limits?" Iris asked. "Just wanted to mention it. For the record." Noted, execute jump, reality twisted. Normal hyperspace jumps were carefully calculated to avoid stress on ships and crews. Ghost Fleet jumps pushed every tolerance. They covered in hours what took regular vessels days. The cost was brutal. Every person aboard felt like their body was being torn apart and reassembled. Training taught them to endure it. Experience taught them to embrace it. When they emerged from hyperspace, alarms immediately screamed. 200 alien warships filled the space around New Terra. The blockade was tight and professional. Any normal fleet would have needed weeks to break through. Ghost Fleet had 12 ships and whatever willingness to suffer it took to win. "They're scanning us," Sam said, "reading our hull temperatures, our radiation output, our internal gravity. They're going to realize what we are." "Let them," Iris said. "We're done hiding." She opened a channel to all Ghost Fleet ships. "This is Ghost Leader. We are not here to negotiate. We are not here to posture. We are here to break this blockade and remind the galaxy why they feared us in the first place. Show them what Deathworld evolution creates. Show them what happens when survival is not negotiable. All ships, weapons free. Begin attack run." 12 ships accelerated toward 200. The odds were suicidal. The mission was impossible. But impossible was what Ghost Fleet did best. Deep in her combat chair, Iris smiled. This was going to hurt. Fleet Commander Nalseth had dedicated his life to peace. He believed in the Galactic Council's mission to prevent conflict through diplomacy and measured response. When orders came to blockade New Terra, he had accepted the duty reluctantly. The humans needed to understand limits. They needed to learn that their expansion threatened others. A show of force would convince them to negotiate. Everyone would walk away alive. That was the theory. Then his sensors officer started screaming numbers that made no sense. 12 ships approaching. Human design. Internal temperature 200 degrees standard. Radiation output is... Commander, these readings cannot be accurate. No crew could survive these conditions. Nalseth studied the data himself. The approaching ships radiated heat like small stars. Their reactor signatures showed output levels that should have melted their own systems. Internal gravity registered at 2.5 standard. Enough to make movement difficult for most species. And they were accelerating at rates that should have crushed their crews. "Hail them," Nalseth ordered. "Warn them to reduce speed before they kill everyone aboard." The communication officer tried, then tried again. "Sir, they are not responding." "And sir, their acceleration is increasing. That is impossible." "Yes, sir. They are doing it anyway." Nalseth felt his breathing quicken. He commanded 200 warships. The humans had 12. Simple mathematics said this would end quickly, but something about those readings made his instincts scream warnings. Those ships were wrong. Everything about them violated the laws of safe operation. All vessels battle formation, he ordered. Prepare to disable, not destroy. We want them alive for questioning. His fleet moved into position with practiced efficiency. 40 ships formed the outer perimeter. 60 took middle positions. The remaining 100 held reserve status. Against 12 targets, it should have been overwhelming. Should have been. The human ships split formation. Instead of grouping for mutual defense, they scattered across 3 dimensions. Each one moved independently, following no predictable pattern. Their speed made tracking difficult. Their maneuvers should have been impossible. Lead group engaging, his tactical officer reported, firing warning shots across their approach vector. Nalseth watched the display. Energy beams cut through space ahead of the human ships. Standard procedure. Show force. Give them a chance to surrender. Every civilized species recognized this protocol. The humans ignored it completely. They accelerated through the warning fire and opened their own weapons. Kinetic rounds moved at speeds that regular point defense could not intercept. They punched through shields and armor like they were not there. 3 of his ships went dark before his fleet even understood they were in real combat. Return fire. All ships engage. Energy beams and missiles filled space. His fleet had overwhelming firepower. The problem was hitting targets that moved like the humans did. They pulled turns at 8 gravities. They reversed direction so fast that momentum should have liquefied their crews. They flew through weapons fire that should have forced them to evade, taking hits on their shields and armor without slowing. Nalseth watched as one human ship dove straight through his formation. It took fire from 20 vessels. Its shields collapsed. Armor burned away in sections. Any sane commander would have retreated. Instead, it fired at point-blank range into his flagship's sister ship, then used the explosion as cover to escape. The maneuver was insane. It was also devastatingly effective. Casualties? He asked. 17 ships destroyed, 23 damaged. They have lost 0. That cannot be accurate. Sir, I have triple-checked. Their ships are damaged, but all remain operational. They fight through damage that would force us to abandon ship. Medical reports started flooding in. Crew members were collapsing across his fleet. Not from weapons fire, but from stress. The acceleration required to match human maneuvers was making his people sick. Pilots blacked out. Gunners could not maintain accuracy under the strain. Meanwhile, the humans seemed to be getting faster. One of the human ships came about for another attack run. Nalseth's tactical display showed its status. Hull breached in 3 sections. Power fluctuating. Life support compromised. By every standard measure, that ship should have been evacuating crew to escape pods. Instead, it accelerated toward the heaviest concentration of his fleet. What are they doing? His tactical officer whispered. They watched as the damaged human ship fired everything it had. Missiles, kinetic rounds, energy weapons, even some kind of plasma torch that should have only been used at extreme close range. It burned through 5 ships before his fleet concentrated fire and forced it away. Even then, it did not retreat. It repositioned and came back. Sir, message incoming from the human ships. Audio only. Play it. A woman's voice filled the command center. Calm. Almost pleasant. This is Captain Iris Navarro of Earth Defense Ship Valkyrie. To the blockade fleet, you fear normal humans. We are not normal. We come from the deepest parts of Earth's evolution. We are what Earth created when it tried its hardest to kill us. You wanted to see what Deathworld survivors can do. Watch carefully. The transmission ended. Before Nalseth could respond, the human formation shifted again. This time they stopped trying to destroy ships. Instead, they targeted specific systems. Sensors, communications, command centers. They disabled rather than killed, but with a precision that proved they could have been killing all along. Nalseth realized with growing horror that the humans were not fighting at their maximum capacity. They were sending a message. They were demonstrating capability while showing restraint. This was not a battle. This was a lesson. Pull back the fleet, he ordered. Reform at distance, his ships retreated. The humans did not pursue. Instead, 6 of them formed up and burned straight for New Terra. His remaining vessels tried to block them. It was like trying to stop a meteor with a net. The human ships pushed through, taking damage, dealing damage, never stopping. They reached low orbit around New Terra and started dropping supply containers to the surface. Nalseth pulled up the internal scan data from those human ships again. He forced himself to really look at what it meant. Internal temperature high enough to cause pain. Radiation that would cause sickness in his crew. Gravity that would make every movement an effort. And the humans operated in those conditions not just for minutes or hours, but for days. They lived in environments that were hostile by design because that was what their bodies could tolerate. "Sir, the humans are broadcasting again." Iris Navarro's voice returned. "Blockade fleet, we have resupplied New Terra. Your blockade is broken. You can continue fighting and we will continue teaching. Or you can withdraw and report what you have learned. Your choice. You have 10 minutes. Nalseth looked at his casualty reports. 47 ships destroyed or disabled. Hundreds of crew dead. Thousands injured. And the humans had 12 ships still operational. Still fighting, still capable of more destruction. He thought about his orders from the council. Contain the humans. Show them force. Make them submit. He thought about what submission would cost against an enemy that refused to stop. "All ships," he said quietly. "Begin withdrawal." His fleet retreated. Behind them, the 12 human vessels held position around New Terra, damaged but victorious. Nalseth knew this footage would reach every corner of the galaxy. Everyone would see what he had seen. The question was whether they would learn the right lesson. Fear had started this conflict. Fear of what humans might do. Now they had seen what humans could do. Nalseth suspected that fear would only grow stronger, and maybe that was the point. The footage played on every screen across 43 homeworlds. 12 human ships against 200. The blockade scattered like prey animals fleeing a predator. In the Galactic Council chambers, silence stretched for 5 full minutes after the presentation ended. Ambassador Quintara broke it first. They showed restraint. They disabled rather than destroyed wherever possible. That should count for something. High Chancellor Mordek turned to her with disbelief in his eyes. Restraint? They operated in conditions that would kill our crews. They endured damage that would force us to abandon ship. They turned what should have been their defeat into our humiliation. And you call that restraint? They could have killed everyone, Quintara insisted. 47 ships disabled. Most crews survived. If the humans wanted genocide, that blockade fleet would have been wiped out. So we should be grateful they chose not to slaughter us completely? Mordek's voice rose. This proves everything we feared. Humans are not like us. They cannot be like us. They come from a world that breeds violence into every cell. They have now created an elite force that exceeds even normal human capacity. What comes next? How long before they decide the galaxy needs to be reshaped in their image? Around the chamber, representatives voiced support for both positions. The debate raged for hours, but Quintara could see the momentum shifting. Fear was winning. The moderates who had argued for diplomacy were losing ground. Species that had remained neutral were taking sides, and most sided with confrontation. War Marshal Krentok spoke with the authority of military experience. I have studied the battle footage extensively. The human tactics are unlike anything in our databases. They embrace methods we consider suicidal. They endure conditions we consider torture. To defeat them, we must match their willingness to suffer. I do not believe most of our forces can do this. Then we overwhelm them with numbers, Mordek said. The humans revealed 12 elite ships. Perhaps they have more hidden. Perhaps not. But they cannot have thousands. We can mobilize thousands. We can surround Earth itself if necessary. You are talking about total war, Quintara said. I am talking about survival. The humans have shown what they are capable of when pushed. Imagine what they might do if we give them time to build more of these ghost ships. Imagine what they might do if we allow them to spread unchecked across the galaxy. The vote took 3 hours of procedure and debate. When it finished, 40 species had agreed to form a coalition. 2,000 warships would be assembled. Their mission was clear: contain humanity, by force if necessary. The 3 species who voted against, including Quintara's people, were outvoted and overruled. Across Earth, reactions split along expected lines. President Sarah Mitchell watched the voting results from her office, surrounded by military advisors and civilian counselors. Outside, crowds gathered in cities around the world. Some celebrated the Ghost Fleet's victory. Others protested the revelation of such a force. Many simply waited to see what happened next. They are coming for us, General Hassan Webb said. 2,000 ships. Coalition of 40 species. They will arrive in 4 weeks. Can Ghost Fleet win against those odds? Mitchell asked. In direct battle? No. 12 ships, no matter how advanced, cannot face 2,000 and survive. But Ghost Fleet was never designed for direct battle. They are raiders, disruptors. They hit where the enemy is weak, then vanish before response arrives. So we run and hide while the galaxy hunts us? We survive. Which is what humans do best. Mitchell turned to the window overlooking the city. Somewhere down there, civilians were trying to understand what was happening. They had known humanity faced prejudice in the galaxy. They had not known that their government had created super soldiers to fight if necessary. The revelation had shaken public trust. Opinion polls showed support split almost evenly. Journalist Amy Chen had broken the full story within hours of the new Terra battle. Her broadcast had detailed Ghost Fleet's creation, training, and purpose. She had interviewed former candidates who had failed selection. She had spoken with ethicists who questioned whether creating such extreme soldiers was moral. She had given voice to every argument against the program, but she had also shown the battle footage and asked a simple question. Without Ghost Fleet, what would have happened to New Terra's 15,000 colonists? At Titan Base, Captain Iris Navarro dealt with her new reality. Before New Terra, she had been anonymous, one of many elite soldiers that most people did not know existed. Now her name was attached to every article about Ghost Fleet. Her face appeared on broadcasts. Her tactical decisions were analyzed by military experts and civilian critics alike. "They are calling us monsters," Lieutenant Sam Foster said, reading messages on his personal device. "They say we are what is wrong with humanity. That we prove the aliens right." "Some say that," Iris replied. "Others say we are heroes." Both groups miss the point, which is, we are tools. We exist because Earth needed us. The galaxy proved that at New Terra. They blockaded civilians. They threatened to starve 15,000 people, unless humanity submitted to permanent quarantine. We stopped that. Whether they love us or hate us for it, does not change the necessity. Chief Engineer Paula Grant joined them in the observation deck. She carried a data pad showing ship status. "Repairs are going slower than I would like. We took serious damage at New Terra. The coalition is forming up. They will come for us in 4 weeks. We need to be ready." "We will be," Iris said with more confidence than she felt. Intelligence reports showed the coalition's preparations. They were learning. War Marshal Krentok had studied Earth's military history. He understood now that conventional tactics would not work. He was adapting, creating strategies specifically designed to counter Ghost Fleet's advantages. The next battle would be different, harder, more costly. Ambassador Quintara requested private communication with President Mitchell. The conversation happened via secured channel, away from council oversight. "I want you to know that some of us are still trying to prevent this war. Not all species support the coalition, but fear is powerful. Your Ghost Fleet proved your capability, and that proof has made things worse." "What would you have had us do?" Mitchell asked. "Let our people be starved into submission?" "No, but understanding why you acted does not change the reality of where we are now. 2,000 ships are coming to your solar system. They may not be coming to negotiate. Let them come. We have survived worse than this, have you?" Quintara's voice carried genuine concern. "Your species has survived threats on your own world. You have never faced existential threat from outside. The coalition has the firepower to sterilize Earth. I fear that some members want to do exactly that." After the communication ended, Mitchell sat in silence. Her advisors wanted to discuss defense strategy. Her military leaders wanted to position forces. Her civilian council wanted to prepare evacuation plans for essential personnel. Everyone wanted her to make decisions that might determine whether humanity had a future. She thought about the Ghost Fleet crews. They had volunteered to become weapons. They had sacrificed normal lives to be ready for exactly this moment. They had proven their capability at New Terra. But 12 ships could not stop 2,000. Even Ghost Fleet had limits. "We are going to fight," she told her assembled staff. "Not because we want to. Not because we are monsters. But because we are survivors. And survivors do not quit." Across the galaxy, fleets assembled. Crews trained. Weapons were loaded. On one side, 40 species united by fear of what humans might become. On the other side, one species unified by refusal to surrender. Between them, the vast emptiness of space waited to become a battlefield. The Shadow War was about to begin. The supply depot orbited a dead moon, hidden behind sensor-blocking asteroids. War Marshal Krentok had positioned it carefully, 3 weeks' travel from the Coalition's main fleet. It held enough ammunition, fuel, and spare parts to support 500 warships for a month. Security was tight. Patrols ran constant sweeps. Every approach vector was monitored and defended. By every military calculation, it was impregnable. Valkyrie came in dark, coasting on momentum alone, engines silent. No active sensors, no communications, just a piece of metal drifting through space like debris. Lieutenant Sam Foster had plotted their approach through a gap in patrol routes that existed for exactly 7 minutes, every 3 hours. They had one chance to get this right. Target in range, Sam whispered, though there was no reason to whisper in the vacuum of space. Old habits died hard. Weapons ready, Captain Iris Navarro confirmed. On my mark, 3, 2, 1, mark. Valkyrie's engines roared to life. They covered the distance to the depot in seconds, moving faster than defensive systems could track. Missiles launched, programmed to target fuel storage, ammunition magazines, reactor cores. Everything critical. Everything that would burn. The depot exploded in a flash that lit up the dead moon like a temporary sun. Valkyrie was already gone, burning away at speeds that strained even Ghost Fleet tolerances. Behind them, 500 warships just lost a month of supplies. This was how Ghost Fleet fought now. Not in direct battle, but in shadows. Strike the supply lines, hit the command post, destroy the logistics that let an army function, force the enemy to guard everything, which meant they could concentrate on nothing. Over 3 weeks, Ghost Fleet had struck 17 targets. They had destroyed supplies, disabled communications, assassinated 3 fleet commanders who thought themselves safe in rear areas. The Coalition had 2,000 warships. Ghost Fleet had 12. But those 12 were everywhere. The Coalition was not prepared for them. "We are winning," Lieutenant Sam said during a brief resupply stop at a hidden human outpost. "We are surviving," Iris corrected. "That is not the same thing." She was right, and everyone knew it. Ghost Fleet was inflicting damage far beyond what 12 ships should be capable of. But the Coalition kept coming. For every supply depot destroyed, they built 2 more. For every commander killed, another took their place. And their main fleet, 1,500 warships strong, was advancing steadily toward Earth. War Marshal Krentok studied his maps and reports with growing respect for his opponents. The humans fought smart. They used tactics from their own history. Strategies developed over thousands of years of warfare. Guerrilla tactics. Insurgency methods. The kind of war where a smaller force could bleed a larger one to death over time. But Krentok had studied that history too. He understood now what he faced. The humans would never stop. They would fight as long as they could move. They would sacrifice everything rather than surrender. Most species considered that level of commitment insane. Krentok considered it data to be used. "We will not chase them," he told his senior officers. "Chasing them plays to their strength. Instead, we will force them to come to us." He ordered his fleet to the Frontier Nebula, a dense cloud of gas and debris that limited sensor range and made high-speed combat nearly impossible. Then he had his forces spread out, creating a net that covered thousands of cubic kilometers. The Ghost Fleet would have to come through here to reach the Coalition's main supply lines, and when they did, they would find themselves in close quarters where their speed advantage meant nothing. Captain Iris Navarro saw the trap. Anyone with basic tactical training could see it. The question was whether she could afford to avoid it. The Coalition supply lines ran through the nebula. Cut those lines and the advance on Earth would stall. Avoid the nebula, and the Coalition would have everything it needed to siege humanity's home system. "They are learning," Chief Engineer Paula Grant said, studying the tactical displays. "They are not trying to fight us on our terms anymore." "Then we adapt," Iris replied. "It is what we do." She called for a meeting of all 12 Ghost Fleet captains. They gathered via secured communication, their faces showing the strain of 3 weeks' constant combat. 2 ships had been lost in earlier engagements. 10 remained, all damaged to some degree, all pushed beyond normal operational limits. "The nebula is a trap," Iris said, "but it is also an opportunity. They expect us to come at them with our usual speed and aggression. What if we do the opposite?" She explained her plan. The other captains listened, then asked questions, then slowly nodded agreement. It was risky. It played against their strengths. But that was exactly why it might work. 3 days later, Ghost Fleet entered the Frontier Nebula. They moved slowly, using sensors to map the dense gas clouds. The Coalition fleet waited, spread across the space like a web designed to catch fast-moving prey. When contact finally came, it happened on the Coalition's terms. 400 warships converged on Ghost Fleet's position. The humans could not escape at high speed because the nebula would tear their ships apart. They could not fight effectively because sensors barely worked in this environment. Everything that made Ghost Fleet dangerous was neutralized. Krentok watched from his command ship and allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. He had learned. He had adapted. He had found a way to beat humans at their own game. Then the civilian ships arrived. Hundreds of them. Freighters, colony transports, mining vessels. Every human ship within 3 weeks' travel had converged on the nebula. They were not warships. They were not soldiers. But they were humans, and they refused to let their defenders die alone. The civilian ships crashed into the Coalition formations with no regard for their own safety. They rammed warships that outmassed them 10-1. They detonated their own reactors to take enemy vessels with them. They provided cover for Ghost Fleet to maneuver, to fight, to hurt the Coalition forces far beyond what should have been possible. Iris Navarro watched civilians die to save her. She watched a mining ship, crew of 15, ram itself into a Coalition cruiser to protect Valkyrie from incoming fire. She watched a colony transport use itself as a shield, so 2 Ghost Fleet vessels could escape an encirclement. These were not soldiers. These were ordinary humans who had decided that some things mattered more than personal survival. All ships, she broadcast to the civilian vessels. Pull back. You have done enough. We can handle it from here. Negative, Ghost Leader, came the reply from a cargo hauler. You have carried this fight alone long enough. We are humans too. We survive together or we do not survive at all. The battle raged for 6 hours. When it ended, 3 more Ghost Fleet ships were destroyed. 114 civilian vessels were lost. But the Coalition had paid dearly. 200 warships destroyed or disabled, and more importantly, their morale shattered. Krentok had expected to fight an elite military force. He had prepared for that. He had not prepared for a species where every member, civilian or military, possessed the same core refusal to quit. How did you defeat an enemy where even the non-combatants would choose death over surrender? His fleet withdrew from the nebula. Not in defeat, but in reconsideration. Iris Navarro did not pursue. Her remaining ships were too damaged. Her crews were exhausted. And across the fleet, human and civilian alike, people were processing what had just happened. Sam Foster spoke quietly. They came for us. Not soldiers. Not trained. Just people who decided we mattered. That is what we are protecting, Iris said. Not just humans, but humanity. The idea that we choose to care for each other even when it costs everything. Somewhere in the depths of space, the Coalition regrouped and recalculated. Somewhere behind them, human survivors tended their wounded and repaired their ships. And somewhere between, both sides realized that this war had changed into something neither had expected. It was no longer about dominance or submission. It was about what kind of galaxy would emerge from the ashes of this conflict. The communication came through encrypted channels that should not have existed. War Marshal Krentok sat alone in his quarters, staring at the message requesting direct contact. Captain Iris Navarro wanted to talk. Not through official channels. Not with diplomats present. Just 2 military commanders who had spent weeks trying to kill each other. Against every protocol, Krentok accepted. The video connection established, showing Valkyrie's damaged bridge on his screen. Iris looked tired. Her uniform was stained. Behind her, crew members worked on repairs with the focused intensity of people who had pushed past their limits and kept going anyway. You learned, Iris said without preamble. The nebula trap was smart. You studied us and adapted. Most commanders would not have done that. You sent civilians to fight, Krentok replied. That was either desperate or brilliant. I have not decided which. Neither. It was human. We do not separate our people into those worth protecting and those who do the protecting. Everyone protects everyone. That is how we survived Earth. They sat in silence for a moment. 2 warriors who had seen too much death. Krentok spoke first. I can beat you. Not today, perhaps not soon. But I have learned your methods. I have studied your history. Given time and resources, I can develop tactics that neutralize your advantages. I believe this is true. Probably, Iris agreed. And we can hurt you so badly that victory costs more than you are willing to pay. We will never stop fighting, not because we love war, but because survival is not negotiable. I believe this is also true. So we are deadlocked. We are wasting lives proving what we both already know. You cannot conquer us. We cannot defeat you. Where does that leave us? Krentok gestured at his tactical displays. My government wants Earth blockaded or destroyed. Your government wants us to back down completely. Neither side will accept the other's terms. Then maybe we need different terms. You are a warrior, not a politician. I am a soldier, not a diplomat. We see clearly what our governments cannot. This war serves no one's interest. It only satisfies fear. Fear that your species will eventually dominate the galaxy. Will we? Iris leaned forward. Look at our actions, not your projections. We have 12 elite warships. We could have built 100. We have colonies on 7 worlds. We could have claimed 100. We exist in small numbers because we are trying to fit into a galaxy that fears us. We have shown restraint at every step. Even now, when you tried to destroy us, we targeted supplies and positions rather than maximizing casualties. What more proof do you need that we are not conquerors? Krentok pulled up casualty reports. She was right. Human tactics consistently minimized death, even when maximum violence would have been more effective. At New Terra, they could have destroyed the blockade fleet. In the Shadow War, they could have killed thousands. In the Nebula, they could have targeted life support instead of engines and weapons. They chose not to. I will propose a ceasefire, Krentok said. I will recommend negotiations. I cannot promise my government will listen, neither can I, but we have to try. Because the alternative is both our species bleeding for years over fears that may never materialize. The conversation ended. Both commanders sent their recommendations up their chains of command. Both expected rejection. Both were surprised when, after days of political maneuvering, the Galactic Council agreed to talks at Harmony Point Station. Ambassador Quintera led the negotiations for the Council. President Sarah Mitchell represented Earth, with Captain Iris Navarro present as military advisor. For 3 weeks, they argued about borders, expansion rates, oversight, and the core question that had started everything. Could humans be trusted? You want proof we are not monsters, Mitchell said during one tense session. What proof can we offer? We have restrained our military. We have limited our expansion. We have tried diplomacy first in every conflict. You still fear us because of what we might do, not what we have done. High Chancellor Mordek, his earlier aggression tempered by the costly war, spoke carefully. Your ghost fleet is proof of our fears. You created super soldiers without telling anyone. What else have you created in secret? Tools to survive, Iris interjected. Ghost fleet exists because your blockade of New Terra proved we needed it. You claimed we were dangerous, then proved it by threatening our civilians. We responded with the minimum force necessary to protect our people. Would you have done less? The negotiations nearly collapsed multiple times. Fear and distrust ran deep on both sides. What broke the stalemate was unexpected, a proposal from War Marshal Krentok himself. The humans have proven they can fight. They have not proven they want to fight. I propose a test. Let Ghost Fleet serve as a rapid response force for the entire galaxy. When threats emerge that require their unique capabilities, they deploy. This gives us evidence of human intentions while giving them a purpose beyond scaring us. The proposal sparked fierce debate. Some species refused to trust human military forces under any circumstances. Others saw the logic. If humans were conquerors, giving them authority across the galaxy would accelerate their plans. If they were protectors, this would prove it. After a vote that came down to a single deciding ballot, the Frontier Accords were drafted. Human expansion would continue, but with agreed limits and oversight. Ghost Fleet would remain operational, but under a joint command structure with alien observers. Cultural exchange programs would begin immediately. Most importantly, a mutual defense treaty would bind Earth and the Council together. This is not perfect, Quintara said during the signing ceremony. No treaty ever is, but it is a start. It is fear choosing to become trust. The years that followed were not easy. Incidents occurred. Misunderstandings caused tension. Some species never fully accepted human presence. But slowly, through steady demonstration, humans proved they could be partners rather than conquerors. Ghost Fleet deployed 17 times in the first 5 years. They rescued colony ships stranded in hostile space. They evacuated populations from natural disasters that normal ships could not reach. They fought pirates and raiders who preyed on the weak. Every mission was monitored by alien observers. Every mission proved the same thing. Humans used their frightening capabilities in service of protection, not domination. A decade after the signing of the Frontier Accords, Iris Navarro stood in Titan Base watching a new class of cadets. They were not all human anymore. 3 different species had sent candidates to Ghost Fleet training. Most would fail. The standards remained brutal. But those who passed would join the ranks of those who could survive anywhere and protect anyone. A young pilot, one of the avian species, approached nervously. "Captain Navarro, I wanted to ask about the war, about what it was like to fight your way to peace." Iris considered the question. The truth was complicated. The war had cost lives on both sides. It had revealed the worst of human capability and the best of human character. It had shown that fear could drive species to terrible choices, but that understanding could bridge even the deepest divides. "It was necessary," she finally said. "Not the fighting itself, but what the fighting revealed." Both sides needed to understand what the other was capable of. Fear kept us apart because fear feeds on imagination. Once we actually fought, we learned the reality. We learned that humans are dangerous but not monsters. We learned that other species are cautious but not cowards. We learned that survival is not a zero-sum game. "My government still debates whether humans can be trusted," the young pilot admitted. "Good. Trust should be earned, not assumed. We prove ourselves every day through actions, not words. That is how it should be." From Titan Base, Iris could see Saturn's rings spinning in their endless dance. Somewhere beyond them, human and alien ships patrolled together. Somewhere further, colonies of mixed species grew and thrived. Somewhere in the depths of space, old fears were being replaced by new understanding. Governor James Park of New Terra sent an annual report to Earth. His colony had grown to 50,000 people. 30% were now non-human, attracted by opportunities and curious about humans they had once feared. He wrote about cultural festivals where different species shared their traditions. He wrote about research programs combining human endurance with alien technology. He wrote about the future he saw taking shape. President Sarah Mitchell, now in her final term, read his report with satisfaction. This was what they had fought for. Not dominance. Not conquest. Just the right to exist and grow alongside other species. The right to prove through actions that Earth's children could be trusted. High Chancellor Mordek, retired now but still influential, published a memoir that created controversy across the galaxy. In it, he admitted his mistakes. He wrote about how fear had driven him to support actions that nearly caused genocide. He wrote about what changed his mind. "I watched footage of human civilians sacrificing themselves in the Frontier Nebula." One passage read, "These were not soldiers. They were not trained for war, but they chose to die protecting others because that is what their culture values. I realized then that a species capable of such sacrifice was not a threat to be eliminated, but a force to be embraced. Yes, humans are dangerous, but danger in service of protection is called strength. We need more strength in this galaxy, not less." War Marshal Krentok died peacefully at an advanced age. His funeral was attended by hundreds, including Captain Iris Navarro. They had maintained an irregular correspondence over the years. 2 warriors who understood each other better than most. At the memorial, Iris spoke briefly. He learned. That was his greatest quality. When his tactics failed, he adapted. When his assumptions proved wrong, he changed them. He showed his species in mind that yesterday's enemy can become today's respected colleague. We are all here because he chose wisdom over pride. The young cadets graduated from Titan Base, passing the brutal standards that Ghost Fleet maintained. They came from 5 different species now. They learned to operate in conditions that would kill most people. They learned to endure what others could not. They learned that survival sometimes meant sacrifice,